Sat back and thought more about the Brooklyn Nets blockbuster trade in which they acquired James Harden from the Houston Rockets, a 4-team deal. We see Caris LeVert make his way from Brooklyn to Houston, and now he's in Indiana. The Nets also traded a lot of their defense. Taurean Prince was a good perimeter defender, could guard in the post a little bit. And we already know what Jared Allen can do. Y'all know my nickname for Jared Allen. He went to Jared. That big fella was on his way to a big-time payday. And I'm looking at that Nets team, and they're thinking to themselves, look, we've gave a lot of money out to Kyrie, KD, and we want to bring in James Harden. DeAndre Jordan also got paid the day KD and Kyrie got paid. Don't forget that one. The Nets knew they weren't going to pay Jared Allen until they traded him. But for this season, I do believe Jared Allen was a good fit alongside KD. I just watched KD a couple nights ago against the Nuggets. He had good chemistry with Jared Allen. He had good chemistry with Caris LeVert. I look at this trade 24 hours later, and I actually look less of it from a Brooklyn Nets perspective. I think this is an all-time bad trade the Nets just made, but I do understand it. Please allow me to explain myself. The Nets panicked. They panicked, but they have every right to panic. They have an all-star, a guy that's been balling out when he touched the court this year, and Kyrie Irving, not playing basketball. Now, the general manager, Sean Marks, says Kyrie will be back sooner than later. But we know for the last 5 games, Kyrie Irving has been unavailable for the Brooklyn Nets because of personal reasons. And from what I've been told, those personal reasons are simple. He was unhappy with what happened at the Capitol with the riot and the protests in D.C. He's unhappy with the state of this country. And I'm going to be real with you. To me, it seems like Kyrie's a little unhappy with his life. This multi-million-dollar athlete, easily a $200 million brand when you combine his NBA career with his Nike deal. I love Kyrie's shoes. He's an incredible brand, an incredible player. But it seems like everybody knows how great this guy is at 27, already an NBA champion, a perennial all-star, and just a great player playing with another top 5 player. Everybody knows Kyrie's got a great thing going, seemingly except Kyrie. I get it. He wants to be socially conscious. I respect the heck out of that. I do believe Kyrie's somewhere along the lines on the right side of history, but the way he goes about it is questionable at best, and I do think he plays victim role a lot of the time. We'll talk about that in other videos, but Kyrie Irving has been out. The Brooklyn Nets were, obviously, they're cognizant of that. The fact, not only did Kyrie Irving miss the last 5 games, but I think the way he went about it, not contacting Steve Nash, that ownership group, Sean Marks, anyone. And I think that scared the Nets into saying, we got KD in his prime. We obviously know KD's had some serious injuries a couple times, that foot injury, and then obviously we know he's coming off of that Achilles injury in the last 18 months. KD's balling out right now. We don't know how many years we're going to have that. And hell, KD isn't signed to us forever. It's a 4-year deal. We want to go after it and try our best to make KD happy. So the Nets trade all their picks, which I didn't even mention. A lot of their picks is in pick swaps with the Rockets. They trade Caris LeVert, and they go after James Harden to put another star. Say what you want about Harden, he's a star. And what I'm about to say about James Harden is going to probably come off as disrespectful to this brother, but I want to be clear. I am not trying to be disrespectful to the basketball player, James Harden. He's an incredible talent, one of the most gifted shooting guards we've ever seen, and the work that James puts into his game, doesn't look like his body, but his game in the offseason, that cannot go unnoticed, right? We have to state that. But James Harden, the person, has been very selfish. It is what it is. Say what you want. He's been very selfish. And I saw James Harden go to that podium a couple nights ago and say he gave his all to Houston and he wanted out. And my response to that is, are you sure you gave your all? You gave your all when you were on the court from the standpoint of, did you go hard? Did you take every shot possible? Yeah, you did. But did you give it your all mentally? And what I mean by that is, did you ever buy into the team? The legacy of James Harden, you have to bring up the fact that he's one of the greatest shooting guards we've seen, one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen, the fact that he's as durable a guard we've seen. I mean, the brother doesn't get injured. You can make all the jokes about his weight or whatever on the court if you want to. He don't get hurt like that. But there's also a but to that. You can say he's super durable, a great scorer, an all-time scorer, a great shooting guard, maybe a top 5 shooting guard when it's all said and done. But there is a but. And the but consists of this. But he played with Chris Paul and couldn't win. He played with Dwight Howard and couldn't win. He played with Russell Westbrook, his homie, Brody, and couldn't win. Even got worse if you think about it in that perspective. That has to be implemented into James's legacy. But he quit on John Wall. But he wouldn't give it a shot. The Rockets went and got him shooters. Whatever he wanted throughout his tenure, Daryl Morey, when he was there, he did it. And this year they brought in John Wall. And still no success. And the last but has to be the fact that Harden has not performed well in big games throughout his career. Not at all. The higher the moment, the lower he falls. James Harden has not been a star when it was time to be a star. He could do it against the Orlando Magic on any given Tuesday night. He'll do it against the Charlotte Hornets on any given Thursday night. On a Saturday night, I guarantee you he'll drop 40 in Atlanta, then drop another 40,000 in the strip club that same night in Atlanta. But will he do it in the playoffs against the Los Angeles Lakers? Will he do it in the playoffs against the San Antonio Spurs? Will he do it in the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors? We have yet to see that with James Harden throughout his career. And that has to be a part of his legacy up until this point. 9 years in Houston. Not a lot of success. And many argue, including self, the Rockets were the best during James Harden's tenure there when Chris Paul was the 1 and James was a 2 during that, 2017, that playoff run that saw the Rockets up 3-2 against Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and the Golden State Warriors. But obviously we know Chris pulled his hammy, and that was that on that. James Harden was not going to go out there and win you game 6 or game 7, and he didn't. He played poorly. If I'm Kevin Durant today, I'm asking myself, would I like to play basketball with Caris LeVert at shooting guard, or would I like to play basketball with James Harden? This is going to shock a lot of people. I'll say it. I'd rather play basketball with Caris LeVert if I'm Kevin Durant today. Who's a better basketball player between Caris LeVert and James Harden? It's James Harden. James, though, wants to be 1. In Brooklyn, he's not 1. In Brooklyn, I'm not sure if he's 2. Kyrie and James got to figure that out. I know why the Nets made this move. You don't know what the heck you're getting in Kyrie Irving right now, if you're getting him at all. So you panic and said, we need another star around James. But to me, this trade makes a lot more sense if you were able to trade Kyrie. Even if you got to move Caris LeVert, which I would have liked to keep, by the way, if I'm the Nets. But if you got to trade Caris LeVert, it makes more sense to trade Kyrie to at least get rid of that cap money and go get somebody else maybe next summer and run it with James and Katie, and that's it. And DeAndre Jordan down low and Joe Harris on the perimeter. To me, it makes more sense to trade Kyrie in a trade for James Harden. You would have incorporated another team, and maybe there's a struggling team in the NBA that would have liked to just have the possibilities of having Kyrie Irving on their roster, and hopefully he gets his head together and plays basketball again. That's where I think the Nets messed up. That's why this is a bad deal for them. Kyrie is still on that roster, and apparently he has plans on playing basketball again. The Kyrie Harden Durant era doesn't make a lot of sense to me on the court, and for damn certain doesn't make a lot of sense to me off the court. My question for you, especially with Joe Harris starting more times than not, is who's going to play defense on that team? You going to want DeAndre Jordan to guard guards? Like, what are you asking? Jared Allen, one of your best interior defenders, gone. Taurean Prince, one of your other best perimeter defenders, he's gone. Spencer Dinwiddie's out for the season. Caris LeVert has now moved on to Indiana. Everybody got better in that deal. I'm not sure if the Nets did. If Kyrie's going to commit to being the third option, okay. If James is going to commit to being the third option, then maybe. If you win a championship, I'll shut up and apologize. But the Cleveland Cavaliers got Jared Allen now. They're going to look to move some of their big men at the deadline. They got a bunch of them big fellas down there. They're looking for assets in the future. Obviously, the Rockets, I would have kept Caris LeVert over Oladipo. I think he meshes better with Wall. But they got an all-star caliber player, Oladipo, who's just looking to try to bounce back from his injury. The Pacers got a home run get to me and Kyrie LeVert, in my opinion. Everybody got better. On paper, the Nets got better. On NBA 2K, they got better. But if they really get better in real life, if James Harden isn't committed to not having the ball in his hand, dribble, you cannot be the dribble guy playing alongside Kevin Durant. I wonder what Durant's thinking. And I feel like the Nets cheated themselves in this regard. Have you watched KD the last couple nights? He looks like the old KD, damn near even better. The explosion is there. The jumper never left. I don't care if he got no feet. He's still going to knock down a jumper. And I really feel like him and Kyrie LeVert could have took that Nets team place. I think they could have got out of the East with just Kyrie LeVert and KD, let alone if Kyrie came back with his head on his shoulders. The Nets were good to me this year. Kyrie just kind of went off the deep end with it. So I don't see it. And then the fact that they traded all their picks again, they did that again. Like the Nets traded all of their picks about a decade ago. Remember when they brought in an aging Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett post their Boston Celtics run? They brought them in after the Heat beat them a couple times in a row. And they wanted Pierce and Garnett to play alongside Deron Williams at the time. And that Brooklyn Nets team. And it didn't work out. Brook Lopez as well. It didn't work out. And Brooklyn, Joe Johnson was there as well. It didn't work out at all. And, you know, the Nets it took them a while. They're just now getting on the other side of that now because they didn't have picks for so long. They were bad after it didn't work out, and they had no picks. So now you finally get over that hump. You get picks. You got talent. And obviously, when you got a guy like Kevin Durant, you know you're not going to be picking at the top of the first round. But there is value in having picks, especially if this thing goes crazy again for the Nets in a couple years. If KD ain't happy, if Kyrie ain't happy, and we just saw James Harden say he wasn't happy with 2 years left on his deal. So if that happens again, there is no rebuild coming again. It'll take another decade again. So you got to be all in. Look, I'm not sure James Harden makes sense for the Nets today. I understand why they did it. They wanted another all-star guard. Kyrie LeVert's not an all-star yet. Really good, but not an all-star. I think he meshes better with KD. I don't think you need a third all-star around KD and Kyrie. But they panicked. They saw Kyrie one there. They didn't have great communication with him, and they panicked. James wanted out. I feel like the Nets felt pressure to make this trade, and I'm not sure if it was the right trade. I'm just not sure. I am not sure if that was the right trade for Brooklyn today. I think that was a panic move, and I think it has all. You know, what if Harden's not happy in 5 months, and he demands another trade? I mean, his value wasn't the highest now. He had been on the market for months with the Rockets, and no one really pulled the trigger until the Nets did this week. What do you do then if James Harden wants a trade? We've already seen him demand a trade with multiple years left on his deal. Now what? What if you make KD unhappy? Like what now? Like if James is not bought into defense and not bought into being a third option, this doesn't work. Please, y'all let me know in the comment box below some of your thoughts on what I just said. I don't think this was a great trade for the Nets. I don't think this is a good trade for the Nets. I think everybody got better, and I'm not sure if the Nets did. Too many moving pieces for me to make a move of that magnitude at this point in the season, especially with Kevin Durant playing some really great ball.